This is how evangelicals successfully target Jewish communities for conversion. Posing as Jews, wearing a kippah, wearing tzitzit, and in the case of the Isaacson, but really Dawson family, acting like Haredim, behaving like Haredim, and most importantly, moving into Jewish communities all over the United States and now Israel. And I call on you to be vigilant, to be aware. This is a very serious problem. A problem that has plagued Jewish communities throughout the United States for a dozen years has now made its way to Israel. I'm talking about Michael Dawson, Kalev, son, Chavi, wife, began a trek that we could trace from Portland, Oregon, where they showed up as missionaries seeking to evangelize the Jewish community there. Thankfully, there were converts to Judaism who recognized them as evangelical missionaries, and they were outed there. They moved on to Dallas. Dallas is a critical point because it was there that they claimed that they were Jews who are Balei Tshuva and returned back to the faith. They wanted to get married under the auspices of a rabbi and requested a Jewish wedding so they can have a ketubah. And that's where the paperwork would really begin. They would be able to seize that kind of paperwork to use in future Jewish communities. They would move on to Houston, Milwaukee, Phoenix. In these communities, they would pretend to be Jewish and eventually emerge as appearing Hasidic. They look like they come out of Mea Shearim. They look like they come out of the most Haredi community you can imagine. Change their name to Isaacson. In some of these communities, they acted as mashgichim. The family engaged in performing tahira. It's a very sacred ritual where the body is cleansed prior to burial. This shattered Jewish communities in the United States. They wrote ketubot, marriage contracts, all sorts of documents, worked with Beth Dins. It really was a nightmare. In one city, in Milwaukee, they were even offered to just renounce their Christianity and move on a program where they can convert to Judaism. They didn't want any part of that. They're eventually exposed in cities and then just pick up and move on to the next city. Their method is to infiltrate the Jewish community in any way and every way possible, make friends, and eventually make their way to the land of Israel. And that's what's just happened now. They're known as Isaacsons. That's how they call themselves, but really go back to Dawsons. They've made their way to the land of Israel. In fact, the son Kalev, who he looks like a Hasidic Jew in every way. He walked into a synagogue in Nachlaot. Nachlaot is an eclectic Jewish neighborhood, very famous in Jerusalem, and popped into an Orthodox synagogue there last Sabbath, prayed with the community. On Shabbat, he was given an aliyah at the Torah. Imagine that. But he's really a missionary. And then he returns back this past Sabbath, only to be confronted about who are you and you need to speak to the rabbi, and then he suddenly disappears. The family's in Israel now. The plan is to infiltrate the Jewish community. These are not the first people that would try to pull a stunt like this, but it's a very serious problem. Their aim is to make aliyah. The aim is to have their children perhaps marry here. It's a very serious problem, and they're going to be popping up in synagogues in Israel, most likely in Jerusalem initially, but perhaps beyond that. These are covert missionaries, and a lot of research has gone into to this group, this family. Beyneynu has been squarely behind this. These are all evangelical missionaries, and they have no Jewish background, no Jewish genealogy at all. These are not the only imposter Hasidic Jews in the United States or Israel. There are unfortunately many of them, and they didn't invent this idea. Paul did. Earliest surviving canonical documents in the New Testament are the letters of Paul. In his own epistles in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul explains to his followers. He tells the people of Corinth, this is what I do. To the Jew, I become as one who's a Jew, that I may gain the Jews. To those who are under the law, I become as one under the law, although I'm not really under the law, so that I may gain those who are under the law. Those who are not under the law, meaning Gentiles, I become one who's not under the law. I can become all things to all men, so that I may gain them for Christ. That method is being used today. It's being used today to evangelize. These people also gather information about the Jewish community. Bear in mind that so frequently the Jews who are converted to Christianity by missionaries, their first contact is a social one. Non-Jewish people who are not working for Jews for Jesus. And it's these missionaries that are in the inside that can teach evangelical Christians how to effectively witness to their neighbors, to the people that they work with, fellow students. So it's up to you to understand more about the dangers of missionaries that are targeting Jewish people for conversion. They believe that in order for Jesus to make a second coming, the Jews first have to be converted to Christianity. The Jews essentially are holding up the show. This is how evangelicals successfully target Jewish communities for conversion. Posing as Jews, wearing a kippah, wearing tzitzit, and in the case of the Isaacson, but really Dawson family, acting like Haredim, behaving like Haredim, and most importantly, moving into Jewish communities all over the United States and now Israel. And I call on you to be vigilant, to be aware. This is a very serious problem.